I'm Marlie Hall. I've spent more than 15 years in news chasing the stories that matter most. Now I get to focus on our community and bring you the show that covers the culture like no other. Join me as I lead the conversations we have when we're the only ones in the room. Today on Marlie, lawmakers want to ban virginity testing, and we have rapper T.I. to thank for it. Racism might have saved some black people from opioids. Breaking news, Kamala Harris calls it quits. And why should Rihanna make new music when her old hits are still making history? So I've got some friends here with me to break it all the way down. We have Dr. Amika Reynolds, family medicine physician, political expert Stanley Fritz, and marketing strategist Sadé Council. So let's start here. Lawmakers in New York are introducing legislation to ban virginity testing. And it's all because of T.I.'s controversial admission last month that he takes his daughter to the doctor to ensure her hymen is intact. If the bill is passed, doctors who perform the tests could face professional misconduct penalties or possible criminal charges. So as far as I know, there is no accurate way to assess virginity. So Dr. Amika, what is virginity testing? What does it entail?
Well, I mean, basically you're trying to figure out if, the thin sheet that's there when you're born is still present or intact.
The hymen.
Right, called the hymen. Like the records show, it's not a very good test to determine that, because your hymen can be broken for simple reasons, just as an active girl, and so on and so forth. And sometimes, you have other ways to, disguise it or bring it back, from other tests, and that's beyond that. But it's not a good way to determine if someone is actually sexually active, and it's a little bit invasive, to be quite honest. And I have 2 girls. I can't really imagine having to go to, bring them to a physician, or myself having to test to make sure that this is intact.
I would call it very invasive.
Yeah. Very.
So, Stanley, why aren't we policing boys' virginity like this?
Because we don't care if boys have sex. We want them to have sex.
Why don't we care, though?
Because the world is a racist, patriarchal, sexist universe, and we like to control the bodies of women. But virginity is funny because it's a made-up thing. So it's like we made up the tooth fairy, and now we're making a study to find out the tooth fairy stole my wallet. This entire premise is silly and it's dumb, and it's about T.I. wanting to control his daughter so he can manage her sexuality, because he knows that she may be the man who is just as trash as he has been to his own wife. So, I mean, this is all bullshit.
I would agree with you, because we know that some women, right, Dr. Amika, are not born with hymens. They just don't have them. So it's just not an accurate test. Right. So I would say it's very, very invasive. So if parents want to find out if their kids are just having sex, why don't they just ask them?
I mean, as a communications and marketing strategist, I would very much advocate for just having a conversation. Like, it's about establishing trust with your offspring and having an open enough relationship that they feel comfortable enough to share that information. And if they don't, that's also okay. Like, it's a really kind of private thing. And if it's their safety that you're concerned about, there's other ways, I think, to go about it and to broach a conversation that is coming across as more protective and like, look, hey, I just want to make sure that you're safe, as opposed to controlling and trying to maintain purity, as T.I. I think was trying to come across as.
But isn't it crazy that in this day and age, we actually need a law to ban virginity testing, and we needed T.I. to bring it into the national conversation?
I'm actually surprised that he's the one that brought it up. And I mean, listening to it, it was like, why did he feel the need to talk about it in the first place?
Well, he says he was joking.
Well, it's a terrible joke. And obviously, look where we've come because of it. So it was not necessary for his daughter. It pretty much like put her on the spotlight too. So, you have this invasive thing, and it was private between you and your parents. And now the whole country knows that you had to go through this, kind of like humiliating thing. Not necessary. And at some point, you have to let people, especially women, become individuals. My children are still young. Eventually, there's going to be a point where I have to talk and discuss these things, but I have to also know that they're going to be individuals separate from me. I have control now because they don't know what they're doing, but eventually they're going to learn. And at some point later in the future, what does it matter anyway? If the hymen was intact, if it wasn't intact, or if they lied or told the truth, we eventually become adults, and hopefully functional, active adults that, we can look back and say that this thing didn't even really matter. So why even have a conversation about it?
So rapper Rah Digga, she actually sided with T.I. and she said says that she too goes to the doctor with her daughter to check the hymen. Is it surprising to you that women are endorsing this?
No. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. If we've all been learning the same ideas about women and sex for all of our lives, why would anybody move different? You're actually weird if you move different. There are 3 absolutes in life. Hennessy tastes better with apple juice. Taxes.
Wait, how did you bring Hennessy into this conversation about hymens?
Well, there's always time and space for brown liquor in black spaces. But Hennessy tastes better with apple juice. Taxes are always gonna come, and men's insecurities run so deep that we have to control women's bodies in order to feel whole. And if we're really being honest about it, I lied about my virginity until I actually lost it. I told my dad I lost my virginity when I was 13 years old.
But why did you do that?
Because my dad has been having sex since he found out what sex could do. And he expected me to be the same way. And I remember I was 13 years old. I had just come back from my 8th grade senior trip. And I said, oh, I hung out with a girl. She wanted me to go to the woods with her. I said no. He said, why? And I said, I didn't want to. He goes, are you gay? I still love you, but you can't live here. And I said, no. And then I said, I didn't have any condoms. And he said, so what?
Wow. Oh my goodness.
She would have never found you again. That was the ideology. He's like, when you can get it, you get it. And that's the way a lot of men are socialized. Plus, he doesn't have any face. Do what you gotta do a lot to get it. My dad learned how to speak Dutch. You know why? To have sex with Dutch women. That was the only reason.
You're spilling a lot of tea about your dad.
He doesn't know what YouTube is, so it's safe.
Good to know. Well, is there a better parenting strategy, do you think, as a parent, Dr. Amika?
Well, I mean, you have to pretty much figure out what works for your own children because they're all different. There's no, cookie cutter. There's no, I'm from a Caribbean background, so they all have the same ideology that you're gonna, bring them up the same exact way, beat it out of them in a sense, But, I think that somewhere along the lines, I kind of figured it out that this doesn't work. It's not for me. This doesn't fit for me. And then, trust that your children are going to make good decisions for themselves. Tell them how valuable they are, first of all, so that they know that I'm so valuable that this doesn't work for me. So I think that start there, figure out your children first and then decide what plan is best for them. It doesn't work the same for all children.
Well, the World Health Organization says virginity testing is unethical and should be banned. So I'm surprised it's still legal in the U.S. and even more surprised that it took T.I. and his crazy comments to spark this change. So the opioid crisis is being called white America's crack epidemic. A new analysis by the New York Times found 14,000 black lives were saved because of racist practices by doctors. Their research suggests physicians underprescribed opioids to black patients, believing they have a higher threshold for pain or that they are more likely to sell those drugs. It's so ironic that racism could have actually saved some of our lives in this case. But Dr. Reynolds, how crazy is it that trained medical professionals actually believe that black people feel less pain?
Well, as a physician, we're coming from a household, so that's a start. We're not born doctors. We're born, someone's son, someone's daughter, and that's our first level of training. So if you're in a household where you're taught that, black is not as important or it doesn't, matter as much, black lives don't matter that much, then you're just going to bring that into your ideology of whatever profession you're in. So unfortunately, there's a long time that physicians were really all white male. So we have improved in having female physicians, and now we have more black female physicians, but we still are the minority. So if you're a doctor or you have doctors who are still practicing and they've been doctors for a long time, white men, older at this point, you can't really change their minds about things, then you're going to have that spill over into, like your visit with that particular doctor. And they are still out there. I'm not putting any physician down. However, hopefully in the future, we're moving towards treating people equally. In this case, it was a little bit protective, but for the wrong reasons. So we want to still protect, but, for the right reasons, not because of color or, sex or, anything like that.
So Stan, are you seeing the silver lining or are you outraged?
I don't really know how to answer that question. I mean, yay, we didn't get opioids, but we got shot by the cops and we have crappy housing. It's
We
pretty,
have other problems.
Yeah, it's pretty ironic, but the fact of the matter is, like sexism, racism is something that is so prevalent in our lives. It's like the air you breathe, the water you drink. You don't even have to have a racially problematic parent or a family member or neighbor in your household. Society tells you that black lives don't matter in small ways all the time. And an idea that black people had a stronger threshold for pain and that black women were naturally sexual, so you could rape them and it wasn't illegal, has been an idea in American world like since we've started here. So it's not surprising. When you think about why people have these ideas now, it's really scary.
Well, that is a great question. Why do people have the ideas now?
I mean, that I can't answer. Unfortunately, to Stan's point, like I feel like that's just something that we've been socialized into, and I think it's going to take some of these older generations, to be frank, dying out, and us challenging with our younger generations, like Gen X, like Gen Z rather, they're so progressive and so just open-minded, and they're pushing the boundaries with regards to everything in the political and social landscape, and I just have so much hope looking at them that hopefully as we continue to procreate and have further generations, that they will change the overall outlook that we have as a society, and that things will eventually get better. But as of right now, there's no answer for that, and there's no solution, fortunately.
I think there is, though.
Really?
It's a hard solution. It's a hard answer, but we have to destroy white supremacy. We got to break the knees of that shit to knock it over the head. Because the whole reason we have this problem is because this idea of whiteness has poisoned everyone's minds. And it hurts black people a certain way, it hurts brown people a certain way, and it hurts white people a certain way. And we have to start having a conversation with each other and start to find ways to decolonize our minds. Whiteness is not real. It is a construct. It's all made up, and it was used to build power over one group. That's all it is. And once we get there, we can really start to dig in all the ways that it's messed us all up. So that's where I'm
But do
at.
you think if whiteness is a construct, then you could argue that blackness is a construct?
It is. It is. It's all a construct. It's made up. Because, if this is like year one, and I ran into you, you ran into me, well, we both be in Haiti, but like say we ran into the good doctor over here, she'd be Jamaican, we'd be Haitian, period. That'd be that. Or whatever tribes are coming from, that's what it would be. Whiteness was literally made. It was an idea that started off in Greece as a reason to justify slavery, and it's just evolved over the years. There's a really good book called Stamped from the Beginning that talks about this. But like, it's really just a construct, and we gotta attack it.
So I have a question though, quickly, if I may. Like, how do you say it so easily, like we're able to just snap a finger like Thanos and like white supremacy is gone? Like, it's not like this is something, as you just mentioned, that's been in existence for centuries. Like, how you can't, that's not something that's going to get solved overnight. And I think that we are on platforms like this and also in our own homes and in our own communities having these conversations, but we are, at the bottom line, we're not the ones in power. So how much are we going to really impact the educational system, the socialization of people in their own homes that's really going to be the catalyst to changing people's mindsets on the long term? I'm hopeful that each little bit of step that we take is going to make that change, but it's definitely not going to be something that happens overnight.
No. And it won't happen during our time either. But like, instead of trying to get a seat at the table, break the goddamn legs and make your own, like this table right here. And also, we have to engage white people in a conversation. And I say that as someone who loves slandering white people and white supremacy. If white people aren't bought into this, we're going nowhere.
Exactly, and that's why it starts at medical school. So how can we train doctors to be more racially sensitive?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one. We can, like, first of all, like, I have, like, a voice, and I'll say, exactly how I feel about how patients are being treated. I mean, I have openly said, well, I think that you're doing this because this patient is black, or have not done this because this patient is black. It ruffles feathers, but, just be open and honest. I mean, and as long as you're able to speak freely and point it out as it's happening, how many people are brave enough to do that, I don't know. But, in the academic or educational system, we can pretty much kind of start there. So, I'm also interested, have not yet been in a system like that, but I'm also interested in, in the future, participate in education, medical education. So, I can use my voice and, like my opinions to show that, like, first of all, we are human beings. I'm one of them. I'm a physician, but I'm also a person. And with that same compassion, looking at, a person, treating them equally across the board, hopefully I can lead by example. So it's going to take a mindset to say that I can identify the problem and I want to be a leader in, pretty much fixing or helping to solve it.
Well, the idea that racial bias could have saved lives is shocking to me, but even if the bias is not malicious, it has no place among professionals we trust with our lives. So coming up, Kamala calls it quits, and what do Rihanna, Taylor Swift, and Lady Gaga have in common? We'll tell you after the break. Stay tuned. The writing was on the wall, but now it's official. The only black female candidate for president is suspending her campaign. In an email to supporters, Senator Kamala Harris says she doesn't have the money to keep her campaign going. So let's bring our guests back into the conversation. We have family practice physician Dr. Amika Reynolds, political expert Stanley Fritz, and marketing strategist Sadé Council. So canceled fundraisers, rumors of campaign turmoil. Should we have seen this coming?
No, and it shouldn't be happening. Kamala Harris is one of the most qualified candidates up there who's running for president, and I wasn't supporting her, but she has the most experience in actually doing a job and leading an office. She was in the U.S. Senate. She has decent policies, not my kind of policies, but decent policies, and she should have been an easy choice for anybody who claims they want to support black women.
But Stan, though, at last poll, she had 3.4% support among all Democrats.
Yeah.
That looks like a failing campaign.
That does, but it's like it's bullshit and it's white supremacy because you got.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain to me how white supremacy factors into this.
All right,
Please.
cool. So here's my issue with this. Amy Klobuchar, who has no policy, stands for nothing, has trouble raising money, and is most known for throwing a used tampon on her staffer and trying to get a former staffer fired, is polling higher than Kamala Harris. She hasn't presented any policy, and there's really no reason she should be competitive. Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of Indiana, the biggest election he won, he got 8,000 votes. He couldn't even win a statewide election in his own state. And he has done nothing besides be mayor. But all of a sudden, he's raising millions of dollars to stay in the race because that's the reason she has to leave. She can't raise money anymore when she has a longer track record. And this happens all the time. And Kamala Harris, if we're being honest, was unfairly treated by the media. Because why is Pete Buttigieg, a white man who has accomplished nothing and only knows black people in theory, getting more positive press coverage than Kamala Harris, a black woman and the first serious presidential candidate of a black woman since Shirley Chisholm? Why is he getting more attention than her?
He's doing better in the polls.
Yeah, because white and money. And because New Hampshire and Iowa, the two states that come up first in the primaries, are 93 and 94% white.
But you say white, but can we be mad that their own are supporting them? Isn't that what we should be doing?
There's not enough black people in mass to support Kamala Harris in mass to make a dent. It's only 13% all across the U.S.
But the black vote is critical. 25% of all Democrats are black.
Yes, but you need that in the general election. In a primary election, you do actually have to get white votes. And the people who engage the most in primary elections are the diehard super activist folks. They tend to be white. They tend to be upper middle class. They tend to be able to donate and contribute to campaigns. And if you don't get those, you got to be tied to big money, like Pete Buttigieg, who's accomplished nothing but has Facebook behind him, or Beto O'Rourke, who lost the race in Texas, but somehow still had $50 million to run for president.
So what do you think she did wrong?
I mean, I will admit I'm not as well versed in the political landscape as Stan is, but what I can say is that she didn't really rock my world as a fellow black woman. Like I wasn't picking up what she was putting down. I really didn't love anything that she had to say. I feel like she was pandering to the black community in a lot of ways, and I feel like some of the policies that I've heard that she supported in the past, whether it was in regards to mass incarceration or drug laws, like it was a little bit shaky in terms of like really making a better way for black and brown folks in particular. And so for me, I just didn't feel like her platform was strong enough from a like supporting the black community perspective, which is very important to me, especially if you're a black woman. Like, not to say that maybe it's not fair because I'm not maybe holding the other candidates to that same standard, but if I'm going to support a black woman candidate, I want her to be the best. And in my opinion, she was not the best. And so that I'm kind of like, sayonara sis, like, good luck. Hope to see you in the
That's a
cabinet.
little harsh. But it's unfortunate, though, that she was the only black female in the race, and now there is none.
Well, that was, I mean, basically her downfall. I mean, black women are the least preferred, so, just she was qualified, like he said. And, a lot of people did appreciate her policies and so on. But, from the beginning, she was already the underdog just because of gender and race and that mixture. And unfortunately, that we haven't moved past that yet. America has not moved past Black women being great, unfortunately.
So Kamala Harris cryptically said that she will soon announce her plans. But if her campaign is over, what plans could those be? Is a talk show, a book, possibly somebody's running mate? What do you think?
So more than likely, she suspended her campaign. What she's going to do is endorse a candidate. I assume she'll wait till after New Hampshire for the California primary, which got moved up, and she was expected to win that race because it's her own state. She'll probably throw her support behind either Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. I'm assuming whoever gives her the sweetest deal. She's going to want somebody to help pay off any campaign debt she has, and she's also going to want a nice position in the cabinet. I'm thinking either vice president or attorney general. Probably attorney general, because who wants to be vice president? It's ribbon cutting unless the president likes you.
You have got her life all planned out.
Hennessy.
And apple juice.
Yep.
All right, so Kamala's campaign lasted a year, and it seemed to me like she just never figured out how to hit the right notes, especially with Black people. So pop superstar Rihanna has been antisocial in the music industry lately. But that hasn't stopped her from making Billboard history. The 2016 album Anti has spent 200 straight weeks on the charts, making it the first album by a Black female artist to reach that milestone. So Rihanna has not released any new music in 3 years. So do you think that her staying on the charts has more to do with her music or all her visibility because of her business ventures?
I absolutely think it's the latter. I think it's great branding. It's a great strategy from a marketing perspective. She's been on the mouths and lips of everybody in the last 3 years, despite having not released anything, between the Fenty Beauty launch and all that conversation around inclusivity and makeup and cosmetics, and then also following up with having the LVMH deal for her own fashion maison. Like, that's just incredible. And so she's breaking boundary after boundary. And I think that for her, like, she's so unapologetic, like, in the way that she moves, that she really has been flipping the bird to everybody, like, that ask about this album. Like, she really doesn't care what you think. And I think that almost, like, it ingratiates people to her even more. And I think, obviously, like, Anti also was, like, a good body of work. So, like, the music is good, so people are going to keep it in rotation. But I think on top of, like, her being so visible, and it just makes you starved for anything Rihanna. And she just released her photo book. So, like, she just keeps us thinking and talking about her. And, the music has to be the soundtrack to that.
Yeah, she's always up to something. And she's known for reinventing herself. So what do you think, or which Rihanna do you identify with? From which album?
Man, Anti was my favorite album. I still play that album. But if I'm being honest, I'm just waiting for her to come out with the Savage Fenty for Slim Thick Men. Because that's when I'm really going to shine. Like, that's going to be my bag. And when that comes out, I'm going to be playing the song I'm Higher. I can't wait. Be drinking my Hennessy with apple juice.
Yes.
This whiskey got me feeling pretty.
Are you going to have it, like, in a champagne flute, though?
My girl
to make
won't
it
let me.
fancy?
She'll be like, no, that's mine. She took my champagne glass. It's a bully.
But what exactly is Slim Thick?
Slim thick is for men, like, so we not like skinny, but we're not like fat. But I did 10 push-ups this morning, and I feel good about myself, so it's like that.
Okay, as long as you feel good about
Yeah,
yourself,
like,
that's all that counts.
Like, I mean, cute.
So, Dr. Amika, is there a Rihanna that you identify with?
Yes. So there was a critical point in my life where I had to, moves had to be made, studying had to be done. And I remember picking myself up and moving across the country to Illinois. And the one song that I listened to the entire time, amongst praying and God, just please get me to where I need to go, was I Came to Win. Mm-hmm. So I left New York and I moved to Illinois to this program where I, was a tutor for medical exams. And I was also studying for my own medical exam. But that song, every day going in, is like, I came here for a reason. I came to win. I came to fly. And literally, I stayed there until I took my board's pass and was accepted into residency program. And that song was just I blasted it. I cried. And that was my favorite,
Nice.
Yeah, connecting with her in that way.
Riri helped you get through medical school?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I'm sure she'd love to hear that.
Yes.
Well, my favorite Riri is Thick Riri. I don't know what album that goes with, but yes, I like her thick because it makes me feel better. So I know the fans are pressing Rihanna for new music, but according to Forbes, she is the richest female artist in the world. So if I were her, I'd be on the beach in the Caribbean with my feet up, counting my money. So I want to thank my guests, Dr. Reynolds, Stanley, and Sadé for joining us and sharing their unfiltered opinions. And as always, thank you for watching. And remember, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Marlie Show. See you next time.